Kilo Golf 9, Victor Kilo Victor. This is Whiskey Alpha, A Tango, Juliet Charlie, WA8TJC.
This is Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor. Sir, come back with your call one more time, please.
Okay, that's Kilo Starling. Okay, now we got it. Yeah, the call here is Whiskey America number 8 Tango Juliet Charlie, WA8TJC. Over.
Roger that, roger that. This is Jim, Juliet India Mike, and we're located around Louisville, Kentucky. What's the handle there?
Okay, QSL, Jim. Yeah, the handle here is Cookie. Charlie Oscar Oscar Kilowatt India Echo. Cookie is the handle. And my QTH here is located in Ashland, Ohio, about 54 miles southwest of Cleveland, Ohio. Over.
Ashland, Ohio. Let me get that down. Hang on just a minute. I'm not good at multitasking there, and I just ran out of ink with my pen. What the next catastrophe is waiting to behold on my... All right, Ashland, Ohio, was that?
That's QSL, Ashland, Ohio. Alpha, Sierra Hotel Lima, Alpha Nancy Delta, Ashland, Ohio. You got her, over.
Roger, roger. Now, pray tell, how did you come up with the handle Cookie?
Well, my last name is Cook, C-O-O-K-E, and my dad was an electrician for 43 years at General Motors, and I started General Motors in 2000, and everybody called him Cookie. So that's how I got stuck with that. So that's what I go by on the airwaves there, Jim. Over.
Roger, roger. Well, I'm always trying to get rid of my cookies. I don't know about anybody else, but I do dump my... I run CCleaner. Do you ever use CCleaner on your computer?
Oh, yeah, CC Cleaner. Yeah, I got to buy it. I use it all the time. Yeah, that's a good little program to run there. That's what we use here. Over.
Roger, roger. Yeah, I run that just about after everything I do, you know. I do a lot of streaming, and the streaming really builds up a bunch of files that you got to get rid of if you're going to try to stream down the road, you know, because those old files just get in the way, you know. So it's not unusual for me to dump half a gig of stuff, Roger.
Yeah, fine business. Yeah, you've got a good signal here in Ashland, Ohio. You are about a good solid 5.9 and 10/9 here in Ashland this morning. Very early this morning here. It's getting later. Got a little bit of snow on the ground. The sun's out. It's probably about 40-some degrees here now. But the sun, we picked up about 2 inches of snow overnight. A little bit of Easter snow, Jim. Back to you. Over.
Roger, we came up quite a bit that last transmission. You were down towards my noise, but that last transmission you did come up. Did I seem to come up to you?
Yeah, you come up about 20/9 right there on the last transmission there.
Roger, you're running about 100 watts?
Yeah, QSL. Yeah, we're running just 100 watts here and do a homebrew G5 RV at about 30 feet in the air. The rig here is the Yaesu FT450 Delta. Over.
Roger, what's the orientation of that RV5A? Is it north and south or east and west?
Well, let's see. I got... it's kind of running southeast to northwest. Over.
Oh, roger, roger. So that should... well, let's see. That should favor us because we are to the west of you there, and a little south, I guess. I'm not sure about the south part. Where would Louisville be from you?
Louisville, Kentucky. Well, let's see here. I gotta think. I guess it's kind of southwest. So I guess you're kind of in my low pattern there. So yeah, I think that's probably why we're hearing each other so well. Over.
No, roger that. Roger that. Yeah, it depends on that that antenna. That is a dipole, and so it's going to radiate off the sides of broadband. Although there's a lot of folks that say, you know, you got to be a certain height up in the air before it actually gets one way. I forget which way it gets, but to me, you know, dipole is going to radiate broadband.
Yeah, we're not running a stock mic. I don't know how my audio sounds to you here. It sounds good in my headphones, and I got a dirty contactor here. I got to take this mic apart and clean it sometime, but we're not running the stock hand mic here on this Yaesu either. It's my microphone that my dad rebuilt for me years ago. This is no longer here. I'm a third-generation ham, so my call sign here belonged to my late grandfather, and, which is why I have this a 60-year-old call sign for a 44-year-old guy here, so I recorded my grandfather's call to keep on the tradition. Over.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, my grandfather was an amateur radio before the F.C.C. He met Marconi in I guess in 1902 in Massachusetts. I believe that's what it was. But I get a lot of my radio interest from my grandfather. You know, he kind of gave me some of his treasure trove of parts and pieces. About every 6 months, he came to live with us when I was 6, and he did manage to depart with some of his priceless relics, telephone headsets and microphones, and you know, all different kinds of things that a 6-year-old child would just love to play with. Roger.
Oh, QSL, too bad you don't have any of that stuff today. For memories keep, do you? Over.
Unfortunately, I don't. All I have is the remembrances, the essence of my grandfather, you know, and it's just amazing. See, I never saw him actually as a radio ham operator. When he came to live with us, I was, like I say, 6, and he wasn't running any amateur radio stuff at the time. He had all of his stuff in cardboard boxes, and he had built a little garden about a quarter of a mile away from the house in some area that was like a muck farm. I don't know if you know what muck is, but it's a real black soil, and you can grow almost anything there, and he did. They had a little windmill down there. They didn't have any power, but had a windmill for water, and he had this glass house that he used for storage of all these cardboard boxes that had all of his radio stuff in it, you know. And at the time, I didn't even know anything about amateur radio, but I did notice that those were some of the biggest tubes that I ever seen in my life. I mean, just giant quart jar size tubes. And I couldn't imagine how you would possibly use those. And like I say, I never associated that at the time with him being an amateur radio operator. It was only till, you know, many years after he passed that I ran across an article in 1937 that was actually published in 1937 that featured him and talked about his life as a ham radio operator, and that he had actually started in 1919, I think, well before the F.C.C. Roger?
Oh, wow, QSL. Yeah, my dad built my first set of HF rigs. My grandpa used the Heathkit SB-101. And that's what we used when he passed away in 1985. I got licensed about 1989. I was about 15 years old when I got my novice. That's when I started out. There I am, 44 years, and I'm still doing this. I've been active, and I like it. And I'm one of the most active out of the last novice class that our local radio club has given. And my Elmer, he's still around, the one that gave me my novice license test is still around. Old Mark Andrus, Alpha Golf 8 November. I still talk with him every day, and we talk on VHF all the time and stuff. And yeah, I started out, my grandpa and my dad got me into radio. Then when my grandpa passed, my grandma said, "Oh, you can have all that radio equipment. That's your grandfather's. You can have it." My dad's like, "Oh, great." Well, at the time, I was like, "Well, I don't have a ham license." So then I was like, "Well, I guess I'm going to have to get my ham license." So that's how I got started in the ham radio. That's how I did it. I went and got busy and studied for my novice, and here I am in advanced class. Guys are trying to talk me in to go for an extra, get into the extra class, and I was like, you know, I got something that I can't, I just really don't want to give up my advanced class license, because it's grandfathered, and it's like the novice class. There's none of those around. They're still around. There's novices, they're still around, but you can't get that license class anymore. And it's just like the advanced class, you can't get it anymore. So I'm just kind of hanging on to it, I guess. Back to you there, Jim. KC9VKV from WA8TJC, over.
Roger, Roger. Were you talking about learning the code there? I think that's what kept me out of ham radio for a lot of years, because I just did not have the time, or maybe the ability, I'm not sure, one or the other or both, to actually get the license because of the ham requirement. And then after the F.C.C dropped that, it still took me a number of years. As a matter of fact, till my retirement, we were in commercial broadcasting for 50 years, and when I got to the end of that, then I had some time, and so I said, well, now's the time I'm going to take my test and become an amateur radio operator. And gosh, I'd been thinking about what radio I wanted to use, you know, and I saw this guy had a TR4C, a Drake TR4C for sale on the internet, and I fell in love with that radio. He had pictures, you know, and I just fell in love with those pictures. I knew exactly what each one of those knobs on that Drake TR4C did, and it was just a beautiful radio. And I said, man, I've got to get that radio. And so I tried and tried and tried to get a hold of this guy, but he never would come back, you know. He never got back to me. So the nearest I could figure, he had already sold the radio and didn't want to have anything to do with, you know, anybody that's coming talking about that radio, since it was already gone. But anyway, I went on and studied for my test. I was doing a QRZ test 3 times a day for about 3 weeks. I figured I'd taken that QRZ test about 100 times, and then I said, well, you know, my score went from a 40 to about an 85 to 95, and I said, well, I'm ready to take that test. So I took the test, and the thing was, when I got the test and looked at it, I had never seen one of those questions on the QRZ test. And I took that QRZ test at least 100 times, and they run 3 different test models in their QRZ testing program. So, and I'd taken that thing over 100 times, and I'd never seen any of these questions. I was in deep doo-doo. You know, I said, whoa. And so when I turned my test in, one of the engineers said, you know, you would have passed this if you had just not corrected one of your answers. He said, you overthought. I said, oh my gosh. So I gave him another $5 or $10, and he gave me another test to take, and lo and behold, this test was the test that I should have gotten the first time, because every one of those questions, you know, I knew exactly what they were. And so I took that test and passed with flying colors. I'm getting a landline here, but anyway, as I was leaving, I turned at the door and I asked if anybody, you know, the engineers there, if anybody might know where I could find a TR4C, you know. And this one test engineer said, you know, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll make you an offer you can't refuse. I've got one I'll give to you. And he did. And so I passed my test and got my first radio there within 20 minutes, Roger.
Oh, there you go. Very good, very good. Yeah. I remember the days. Yeah, I liked the code. My dad, when I first got my license, my father took my microphone away from me. He said, give me that microphone. Well, I couldn't operate. I said, Dad, I can't operate voice anyways. The only voice privileges I got are on 10 meters, Dad. That's all I got. I said my CW is that's all I operated. On 40 and 80 a lot. So we did a lot of that on 40 and 80 on the CW side, and so that's what we did. And then we've got tired of novice, and then we upgraded to technician and we got the VHF, the UHF. Didn't give me any more, and then I decided, well, I'm going to go for general. Up the speed to 13 words a minute. Got past my general with flying colors, and then after that, while I was on advanced, while I was on the general flash bands, the hams were giving me a hard time with my call sign, a 2x3 call, and they said, "You're a novice. Get out of here. You don't belong on here. You don't belong on these bands."
KC9VKV, Cookie, I kind of lost you there, buddy. I think our conditions are kind of changing around there. You did fade out. I don't know if you've got a copy on me or not there, but while I've got it down, let me say threes there, buddy. I really enjoyed the QSO. I hope you've got a copy. We've got a QSO-VLOG page where we post these QSOs, and we were a rolling tape on that last QSO with ourselves, and I will be posting that. If you go to YouTube and do a call letter search, Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor, that will bring up our QSO-VLOG page. Right at the top is one that has about 150 QSOs. If you click on that, it'll open up, and the first one right at the top will be Art Bell, and our QSO should be somewhat just below that.